Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Arnie's Fantasy World of Sports. I hope everyone had a safe and fun, if you will, weekend. And I don't know about you, but I really have enjoyed watching the NFL draft over the weekend. A lot of players I wasn't that familiar with, but a lot I was. And so it was interesting to watch my favorite team, the Las Vegas Raiders, pick and select fast, speedy guys and players who played on winning college teams. And I guess we all have our own opinions of who won the draft. The Ravens, it looked like, had a really good draft. I like what the Raiders and Broncos did out west. You've got to get fast to play with Kansas City, and the Raiders and Broncos both got faster over the weekend. The Cowboys, I thought, had a good draft. Not that impressed with Green Bay's selections to help Aaron Rodgers. Maybe I'm wrong, but we'll see. That's the great thing about drafts. And, you know, we're getting ready for baseball's draft coming up here shortly. We don't know a date yet. We know it's going to be just a few rounds. We know that the scouting is really going to be imperative this year with the baseball draft, because with football, you at least had a football season last year leading up to the draft. There was no college season. There was no high school season. So you're having to rely on your scouting departments, and this will really put put the scouts to the test, really, on what they had seen in competitions, summer camps last year, the different leagues that, you know, people play in, but there was no spring ball. So we'll see how that goes. What I plan to do is, when we do find out when the draft is coming, I plan to do a show on prospects. I want to wait a little bit on that one. I've started working on it already, but I want to wait a little bit until we know when the draft is taking place. I just think it'll be a little more relevant doing it that way. Last night I saw where Andrea is working on maybe doing these podcasts by video. Now, would that not be awesome? I went on Facebook and paid attention for a few minutes. I had a lot going on. In fact, I got a lot going on today. It's a really busy work day for me. I started to call Lenny this morning and say, hey, Lenny, I don't think I can do it today, but I thought at least I'd give it a shot, give you a few minutes of something, right? Maybe a little bit of something's better than a whole lot of nothing. We'll see. But I do want to ask this question this morning. How many of you guys are watching Last Dance on ESPN, the Chicago Bull 1998 season? And it does a retrospect, if you will, of the players. It's a lot about Michael Jordan, but it does a retrospect of key players, not only that season, but their Bull career, maybe their pro career, if you take someone like Dennis Rodman. It goes back also to when they were young kids, and it's really, really good. I mean, the thing I like about it is not just a game-by-game study. It's a real-life analysis. I mean, they use language that you couldn't use on regular networks. You hear the F word come out, but it's in a very natural setting. And the thing I like about it is it doesn't seem rehearsed. It seems just spontaneous conversation about the team, about the players on the team. You know, the segment last night, if you watched, there was this situation in the 97-98 season where Dennis Rodman said, I need a vacation. Phil Jackson said, you can be gone for 2 days. I think he was gone for a week or so. He came back, but it delved into how everybody on a team is an individual and how individuals are treated differently. And it's not about necessarily winning the regular season. It's about winning the championship. And that's what the Bulls were about in 98. Their last season with Phil Jackson, Michael Jordan, all those players, coaches on the same staff. It's really an intriguing look back into the Bulls. And I don't know if ESPN planned it this way or didn't plan it this way, but for the mere fact that they are airing this show, or this six show week, it's going to end next week. I think it's 6 parts, as I understand it, or doing 2 parts each Sunday night. But since they're are no sporting events to watch, the NFL draft that I alluded to a moment ago and the Last Dance series on ESPN have become really a sports fan's dream haven. It's the only show in town. So anyway, if you haven't watched the Last Dance Chicago Bulls, I encourage you to watch it next Sunday night. I think next Sunday night is the last show. I'm sure they'll have it on in rerun type forms after that. I'm getting a text from Lenny. I guess I'm live. I'm trying to do the best I can this morning with my crowded work schedule, but I guess I'm on live this morning, and I hope you can hear me. I have no way of verifying that you can hear me. I just assume that you can, and I'm trying to do the show as I'm traveling this morning from point A to point B. Got to work, got to make a living, and I'm trying to do that and do the podcast too. So good to see you guys are with me this morning and listening in. Check out that Chicago Bulls anthology, if you will, and tell me how you think your team did the NFL draft. Now, I'll talk a little baseball, and I want to talk about the Korean Baseball League. And, you know, they're starting up and they're going to be playing soon, and there's some discussion about whether or not ESPN will be carrying the games. They were going to carry the games but didn't want to pay any money to the South Koreans for broadcast rights. And so the South Koreans said, no, we're not going to let you air our games then. I wonder if how that will be received over here in the States. And then secondly, which I think it would be received, I think advertisers would pick it up because of the fact there is no other baseball going on. Now, the problem you've got if you're ESPN contractually is for how long do you sign on with South Korean baseball? Because, look, the moment that the baseball season starts here, Major League Baseball, the Korean Baseball League will no longer be important. I don't think will no longer be relevant to American baseball fans. The American baseball fan, who is the one of like us, we're fantasy players. We're focusing on the Major League Baseball schedule, the players, the games. We don't have a fantasy league involving South Korean leagues. Our interest will not be as keen, if at all, once the Major League season starts. So from a contractual perspective, I can understand ESPN not wanting to obligate for a long-term project, but I'm sure they could work out something where they could broadcast games up until the Major League season does start. And again, I think it's because we've had this discussion on this network. We've had the discussion about the hunger for sports. And, you know, there are Americans, there are former major leaguers who are playing over in Korea. And so I think the longer we go without the Major League season here, the more interest there might be in the Korean season there. And I think if they can work out something where ESPN pays a certain amount for a certain amount of games, maybe, then I think there is a market. And I think it'd be interesting to watch. Now, again, there's a time difference. And I don't know that they would show games live. I don't know that the games will be shown in delay form. I just have no idea about that. I just do know that the baseball fan is ready for something. And I've listened to this several times on other networks. Either there's a contest about which player has the best hair or the best beard, or, I mean, it's like, you're talking about hungry for something. I could care less about the players' haircuts. I could care less when they're having another one. I mean, that does not interest me at all. What does interest me is the balls being pitched, the balls being hit, and games being played. And so without us having a plan here in the United States, I think we were looking at the Koreans as possibly an outlet for us to watch and enjoy baseball. So I hope if they continue on with the schedule, they continue to play or plan to play games and do start their league, I do hope ESPN can work something out where they can broadcast some of those games and we can at least have some form of baseball in the interim period while we're in the coronavirus epidemic here in the United States. So just a thought there. Your thoughts may be different from mine, but I'm interested in that. It would be really cool to at least have that going on. We could talk about those prospects, if you will, and how they may factor in to coming over to America. Because I think that a lot of times you take St. Louis's pitcher Michaelis, went over to Korea and played and really honed in his skills, and it helped him with his career as he came back to the Cardinals, and maybe not last year as effective as the first year he was back, but certainly it's an avenue for major league prospects who maybe couldn't stick on with the team here to get involved there. So I'm going to keep my eye on that. I think it'll be interesting to see what happens with the Major League Baseball as we continue to have discussions about what kind of league we're going to have, when it's going to start. Still no firm word on any of that. The other thing that I'm reading about this morning, of course, is the treatment of the Boston Red Sox with their potential sign stealing scandal. You know, the thing that bothers me about that, and I'm going to take a different, maybe a different look. Maybe you've looked at it this way. Here's what they did. They took away a second-round draft pick from the Red Sox. They did not implicate Alex Cora in the sign stealing with Boston. He was only punished for what he allegedly did with the Astros. The general manager did not get a punishment, and they took the scoreboard video operator and they fire him, and they say, you can't come back and work in that job. Okay, where am I missing something here? The scoreboard video operator works underneath the supervision of the general manager, and so you're going to fire a video player and not punish anyone else? I mean, it just seems like the typical, you talk about taking one for the team. Wow. This kid is taking a major one for the team, it looks to me like. I don't know. Maybe everybody looks at this differently. But I just think to say to a young guy like that, whoever it is, maybe he's not a young guy, but to say to a video or a scoreboard operator, you're fired and you can never do this job again. I haven't heard them say that to the Houston Astros manager, A.J. Hinch. I haven't heard them say to A.J. Hinch, you're fired from your job. And, oh, by the way, A.J. Hinch, you can never manage again. That hadn't been said. I'm really concerned about the lack of consistency. The precedent setting here, that if you're a big fish in a big pond, you can get away with something. If you're a small fish in a big pond, you're going to get banished from the pond. Come on. I mean, just my thoughts. My thoughts probably are not that relevant because I'm a really small fish in a really big pond. I hope I don't get punished by not being able to do anything that I'm normally doing by having the views that I have. But that's just the punishment as I see it coming down. I don't think it's fair. I don't think it's level. I don't think these other guys should be basically slapped on the wrist and then someone like a video operator saying you can never do that job again. I got a problem with that. So do you think A.J. Hinch, Alex Cora, will they manage again? I heard a broadcast on another network saying they thought A.J. Hinch would manage next year. I don't know. I have no idea. I only go back to say this. I'm concerned about 2020. I'm concerned about the state of affairs in our country, the health of our country, the health of our citizens, and I'm hoping that there's a baseball season. So we'll see. Now, I'm hopeful also that we find out about this technology. We may be doing live shows on Facebook. That would be awesome. I'm game for that if that happens. I hope you guys continue to